saying backstage, when I joined in 2018, this is the first event that I created, and because it's a personal passion of mine that, we know being here that the climate world can sometimes be a different planet to the planet that everyone else is sort of living on. And I think what's really important is that we look at ways we can communicate with different people. And that is what this event is about. We're looking at communications, but not in a sort of corporate head of comms communications role. We're looking at it in terms of the different ways we communicate as people with each other. And so I'm super delighted to be joined by two panels of people who are communicating with the public in very, very different ways. And so I'm going to introduce them to you now. To my right, I have Zay Harding. He is an actor and TV presenter and is just launching the second season. Woohoo! The Visioneers on CBS. So we're going to be talking to him. Then to my right, I have Jay English Cook. Now, you might have heard about the Climate Film Festival, which is taking place this week. English is the co-founder and artistic director, so probably has all the tickets in your back pocket if people want to check something out there. We have Adam Gardner here, who is the front man of Gusta, but also is a co-founder and co-executive director of Reverb. And if you haven't heard of Reverb, we're going to find out what that is today. And finally, if you're feeling thirsty or a little bit hungry, we have the top restaurateur here, Henry Rich. I think we're going to an event tomorrow afternoon, so I'm looking forward to that. Henry Rich is the managing partner of the Oberon Group, and we think that food is part of culture in New York City as well. So we're going to be talking about that. So let's jump into it. Zay, you're right next to me, so you're going to get the first question.
Hello.
So congratulations on your new show of The Visioneers. I mean, it'd be great just to we've got an international audience here, so not everyone might know about the show. So it'd be great to hear a little bit about that, but also the model you've gone through to create this show and what you're trying to do is very different and interesting, and I'm loving it, which is why you're here. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about the show and also, how you're using it as a platform to engage with new audiences.
Okay. Yeah, we have an incredible show. It's called The Visioneers, and it's on CBS every Saturday. We just got a second season, which we're really excited about. It's coming up in 2 weeks, October 4th. And actually, we just found some great news. Adam is going to be joining us with his Reverb program. So the whole idea is that we're trying to spotlight anybody who's doing anything innovative that's trying to make the world a better place. And we've just been really successful, especially in the younger generation. It is on Saturday mornings. It fits under entertainment and educational, informational programming. So that's basically your Saturday morning safe TV to watch. Parents usually let their kids watch that and can trust that they're going to get entertained without getting tarnished with any weird ideas. But what's happening is, because we have so many kids on our show who are doing innovations, kids are really starting to get inspired and making their parents watch, and we're getting a lot of good feedback from everybody. But yeah, that's the concept of it, and anything that's cutting edge or just thinking outside the box, we're really able to draw sort of a headquarters for everybody, so that somebody who sees the show, thinks they're doing it on their own, can realize there's actually help. And we've actually connected quite a few people too, so innovations are actually advancing quite quickly because of that. But all kinds of stuff from electric boats to new forms of seawalls to capturing carbon from creating man-made shells using the same process that shells use, like hermit crabs use to draw carbons out of the ocean, can trap them in these and create sand. We've had sand being pulverized glass being pulverized to sand to create extra resources for people in the bayou around Louisiana. They're losing all their protection, and so now they're planting cypress in there so that they're creating a stronger ground. So all kinds of stuff like that, and it's really exciting because everybody's dealing with this issue, and that's why things like this, the Climate Week put together by the Climate Group, are so important, because just by putting it in front of each other, we're able to have discussions that lead to conversations that lead to solutions. And I want to thank Thais Lopez for putting together the Volo Foundation. Sorry, it's just Volo Foundation. And they are a platform that raises awareness of climate issues. So they seek out stuff to just make people aware of it. It's a nonprofit that just really, really wants to do good. And now they're focused on solutions. And so we've become partners for the show, and we're really finding some great solutions.
We live in a sort of social media world now. Half of these apps people use, I couldn't even recognize the name, but I'm a big traditionalist. I think there's a real place for TV and traditional media as well. And I think, this is, you might have heard this, but this is the largest Climate Week NYC that's ever taken place, of over 1,000 events. One of the things that's so important about this is that the vast majority of events are free and open to all, because we want to get more people in to work on this. And I think TV has a role to play, because you can get enveloped in a world which maybe through your own social circumstances you couldn't do in real life. And it's a gateway. Tell me a bit more about specifically television, the role it can play in changing people's lives, quite frankly.
TV is a huge influence on people, and it's a very mainstream. We have household names because of shows, and to bring this into the spotlight is a dream come true. I've been pitching this idea for a while, and finally Hearst decided to pick it up in their Saturday morning block. And because of that, it is in people's homes, and people are starting to think about it. But the timing was everything. Because the situation is getting so bad, people really are feeling we need to do something, and not just me, we all need to do something. It's the world's problem. And so that by the TV route, getting behind it with CBS, this is fantastic. So we can really make a presence. And we're doing it in a way that it's not preachy. We don't want anyone to feel bad, and we certainly don't want to focus on the gloom, because that's only if we don't act upon it. We're showing what you can do and act upon it, and watch all the good things that have come of it. So, yeah, I mean, that's really the benefit of bringing it onto the mainstream. And also the social media stuff are following, which is great too.
And of course, don't even mean about new media. This is, of course, being recorded as an episode of the 50 Shades of Green podcast. And we, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, we love you. I'm going to go from the small screen to the slightly bigger screen now. So English, co-founder, artistic director of the Climate Film Festival. It's been 25 years since the film Erin Brockovich came out, which was the film you showed on your opening night on Friday. 19 years since An Inconvenient Truth. Can you probably make some people in this audience feel a little bit old? In what ways do you think film has successfully contributed to public understanding and engagement with climate change? And how effective has it been at actually influencing policy, making change, making the world a different place?
Thank you so much, Adam. That is an excellent question, and really the reason behind the Climate Film Festival and its origin story. We're still a relatively new organization, about 3 years old, just are in the process of hosting our second annual Climate Film Festival. I have to say, everything that Zay was just saying resonates deeply with what we're all about in terms of platforming and prioritizing incredible filmmakers, TV, folks who are in the industry, artists working in media and the arts, who are thinking about solutions and trying to move the needle, focusing less on some of the doom and gloom messaging, although that can be important, also to recognize folks who have experienced the effects of climate change. So we say that we take a wide angle lens on climate media, focusing on episodics, on film, on short form, and everything in between. And I'm so sorry, Adam, I've forgotten exactly your question.
Nice.
Erin Brockovich, 25 years and the impact, thank you so much. So that is exactly actually a film that we felt was so important to highlight as our opening night film this year, 25 years anniversary. We were fortunate to have a wonderful panel, including Angela Branco from the Climate Group. Big shout out to y'all for all the incredible work you do, as well as Michael Schanberg, a producer on the film. And he was saying, and kind of going back into his own archives, thinking about the legacy of this film, how important it is to highlight stories that end in success, that have actors and protagonists who you can empathize with. Julia Roberts, excellent choice for that particular movie. Everybody loves her. The comedy still lands as well. It was so fun to see it on the big screen. But stories that do have successful results are so critical to highlight. So thank you, Zay, for the important work that you're doing, and I, for one, am very excited to catch season 2 coming up. We also, it was so interesting, had a director as well on that panel, the director of another film documentary called Black Snow that we screened on Saturday night, Alina Simone. And she recently worked on this film that is dedicated and focuses on a female protagonist from a small town in Siberia who experiences environmental injustice in her own backyard and decides to become a citizen journalist, picks up her own phone and starts filming. And chaos unravels and ensues. Alina, the director, on the panel, it was so fascinating, was talking about how critical Erin Brockovich was to her. Erin herself, the real life Erin, actually was an EP on that particular film. And Alina, the director, talked about how that alone gave her access to communities in Siberia because they too had heard of Erin Brockovich. Just the ripple effect, the power of media to ricochet beyond one screening to 2 screenings to many, many more, especially nowadays in our age of new media and podcast, etc. And just the name Erin Brockovich, this director was able to say, and go into these communities to say, I am making a movie about the Erin Brockovich of your own backyard. And that is what gave her access, and that to me really highlights the power of storytelling and cinema in particular, the big screen, to open up doors to create new pathways and build bridges.
And I think, you know, massive kudos to you for what you've done with the Climate Film Festival. I was at an event recently, the International Centre of Photography are doing an exhibition with Ed Patinsky, whose photographs, wonderful thing, well, I say wonderful thing, he shows the impacts of climate change. One of the things he was saying is, you know, we can all look at photos on our phone. When you're in a gallery, being around a lot of people who are looking at the same thing, you feel something. And I've recently got into the habit of actually going to the cinema on my own, and it just feels different when you're even complete strangers. So I think the strength of what you're doing is absolutely incredible. I'm going to come back to both of you in a second, but I want to go to Adam now, a fellow Adam. You're also used to having an audience as a frontman yourself, but I'd like to hear a bit more about the work that you do at Reverb as well. So I'll let you do a bit of an intro to that, and then I'll give my follow-up question.
Thanks. Yeah, so I started with my wife, Reverb, 21 years ago in 2004. So we actually did feel a big change when Inconvenient Truth came out as far as how we engage audiences at concerts. The idea of what Reverb does is we work at the intersection of music and the environment. We partner mostly with musicians, high-profile touring musicians, to do basically 3 things. One, systemically change the music industry to make it more sustainable, using the fact that the entire industry is built around musicians, and musicians that care can actually push the needle, and we've done that with many musicians, starting a long time ago with Jack Johnson and continuing to do that, more currently doing that with Billie Eilish right now on her world tour. So that's one, systemically changing the way the music industry works and making it more sustainable because it isn't. 2 is using that incredible cultural power and reach of musicians and that incredible connection that they have with their fans to engage millions of fans to take action right there on the spot at concerts and in general. So they're communicating from the stage, at the shows, online through their connections that they have with their fans, and in media. 3, we use this incredible platform to boost the environmental movement in general. So we're bringing out local and national nonprofit groups at every concert stop in an action village at the concert. That's a part of the tour. It's part of the concert experience. When you're a fan, the first thing you hit is a volunteer in their favorite band's shirt saying, hey, have you checked out the Eco Village? You can fill up a free water bottle over here. You can plug into local nonprofit groups that are doing good work right in your hometown. And so we do that. We've done that at over 7,000 concerts. And we've had over 8 million fan actions taken just at concerts. We've eliminated 4 million single-use water bottles through our Rock and Refill program with Nalgene just at concerts. That's not counting the fact that they bring these reusables home and then continue to use them. So there's been some real impacts, real actions. As far as connecting fans to causes in their campaigns, we incentivize them. Hey, you can win side stage viewing at Jack Johnson if you do X, Y, Z. You fill out this passport and go to each booth in our Action Village and take action, and you'll be entered to win the signed guitar or some incredible thing that fans want, but also do it because they feel like they're part of the community. We've also been able to use that as a fundraising platform, where now as a big part of boosting the environmental movements, we're actually awarding grants to local, national, and international environmental groups, as well as climate projects around the world that draw down greenhouse gas. We've raised over $22 million to date and granted those out to various environmental causes and climate projects.
So what got you into this?
My wife. So I've been in a band for 34 years, and at that point, she's been in environmental space for equally as long. She has an environmental master's in environmental education, worked for the Rainforest Action Network. When we lived here in New York, she worked for fighting for green space here in the city. And I came home from tour, I think one too many times, complaining about what a mess it was. Anyone who's been to a concert, the lights come up at the end of the night, and what are you walking through? It's a sea of plastic on the ground. As far as from the musician's standpoint, tour buses are the generators always buzzing. You go to a festival and it's all generator power. It's a mess. So it was really my wife that was like, well, then do something about it. At the time, we were playing with Dave Matthews Band and Jack Johnson, Maroon 5, who are all partners of ours and have been ever since. So that first tour was with Alanis Morissette and Bare Naked Ladies in 2004, and it worked. Like, okay, let's keep going. And so it's been over 300 plus tours now, and again, 7,000 concerts and festivals as well. We are addressing power at festivals. That's a new thing that we're doing as part of our music decarbonization project that we started in 2023. Again, with that systemic change, the default power in a festival where it's remote, it's in the middle of a field somewhere, is diesel generators, and those are just dirty power. So we've displaced those and shown that battery power is ready for the main stage. And so the first big stage that we did in 2023 was at Lollapalooza with Billie Eilish. Her headline set was solar powered. We set up temporary solar farm in Grant Park, much to the chagrin of the community and the fire department. But they did it, and we battery powered her set. Lollapalooza since then has been battery powering their main stage last year and again this year with our help, but they're doing it. And we've done that for over 300 major festival headline sets now that started in 2023.
One of the things I always like in this job is you get to realize that the general public sometimes think that sustainability is a compromise. It's a sort of nasty thing you have to do to be a good person. And actually, in so many of the things that we do, which we enjoy and love, it can make the experience better and more rewarding. And I guess that takes me to you, Henry, because let's talk food and drink. New York City. I mean, obviously, from my accent, I'm not from here, but I moved here a few years ago, and the waste that you see in this space is something which is quite astonishing. So could you tell us a little bit about what your approach is, and then maybe touch on that idea of why it isn't a compromise to actually go in a more sustainable direction?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thanks for having me. I mean, it's not often that people think about food as a climate-sensitive industry, so it's nice to be able to talk about it. What we're trying to do with our Scope 3 carbon neutral commitment and experimenting with trash-free restaurants, zero-waste restaurants, is just trying to create the idea that as restaurateurs, where food is responsible for 30% of global emissions, we actually do have an obligation and an opportunity to think about that. And also the fact that in terms of individual agency, creating positive climate identity and consuming, this is something that people do, usually 3 times a day. It's the only form of consumption that's absolutely not voluntary. So just having an option out there for people to, frequent a carbon neutral restaurant. I mean, it's a lot of questions, it's a lot of confusion. It's definitely not why most people come to the restaurant. What is zero waste? Isn't this greenwashing? But having those conversations in, a major media market like New York is an opportunity to try to push restaurants, which is, trillions of dollars of consumption around the country, around the world. And, a lot of the peers are just now recycling, maybe composting. We have a zero waste events company, and most of the venues that we work in just have a huge dumpster. No recycling, no compost, so we have to bring everything back with us. So we have a long way to go with food, but that's why it's exciting.
So thinking about communication specifically, I guess most restaurants wouldn't see themselves primarily as communicators, they're cooking. But you're telling a story through what you're doing. What's your experience in terms of, you know, positive, negative reflections from your customers?
Yeah, people talk a lot about and think a lot about restaurants, usually not with sustainability in mind, but I think, you know, natural wine is a really good example. There's a whole world of media and personalities and culture around this movement, and you know, rarely do people realize this is one of the most successful, like, regenerative agricultural transitions anywhere in the world of any agricultural product. They're actually recarbonizing the soil. They're not using fertilizer. They're not using pesticides. But very few people talk about it. So we'll, you know, try to push that. We'll host events. We'll, you know, do things like this to just, you know, get people to think a little bit more about it when they go out to eat and see what the restaurant's commitment is, because, you know, these are civic spaces. They're third spaces in New York where there is no space. So trying to do it with mission and values and trying to spread it, you know, at moments like this or wherever we can is important. I'm going to say the majority of the people that go to our restaurants do not care if we have a climate positive mission, but you know, hopefully that changes over time.
I'm a big believer in they don't have to care. As long as you're doing the right thing, it doesn't matter why you're doing it if it's being done. And so I think, but it's great that, like, it's a great way of communicating to get people involved. But if you're bringing people in, I think that's fantastic and positive, and I look forward to being at the event with you tomorrow. I mean, we're touching on a few different areas here, and I know we're sort of running at time, so we'll do some shorter, quick Q&A on this. But Zay, coming to you, you've just done one season of the show. You're doing a second season, and you're finding amazing and interesting climate stories, which is, I think, the coolest job in the world.
It is, dream come true.
What are you looking for a story that you think is going to touch an audience?
So actually, as I'm listening to each of you, I'm thinking you're each visioneers. It really comes down to, like, and actually, like you, Adam, my wife was the one that encouraged me to head towards sustainability, because we have platforms. We don't realize it, but we have platforms, and we just have to make the choice to do something that's actually, you know, going to help the future, or we can keep doing something that's going to be the mainstream. And what we're doing is we're changing the narrative so that this is the mainstream. And whoever it was, you were talking about how when you're in a theater, you feel that energy. When you're in a concert, you feel that energy. When we're in this room, we feel that energy, and it becomes cool to do whatever anyone's talking about, right? So we're talking about looking at our own lives and seeing what can we do with our own resources. Like for me, it's the TV, so I'm gonna use that platform to just have some fun, but have the subject be about sustainability. And you're doing that with the movies, and you're doing that with the music, and you're doing that with the food. And so that's really what we're trying to do, is raise awareness, put it in the homes so people think about it, so they talk about it, so that it becomes cool. And I think now it is. Like, look at the turnout this year. For the entire city is gridlocked right now because everyone's out here.
Sorry, I'm gonna get some blame for that as well.
But yeah, that's the takeaway from our program, is that we look inward, see what we can do, and then make that change. Be the change you want to see.
And English, I guess, with what you're doing, it's more of a sort of curation role. I can imagine it's a really interesting experience. Like, how do you set upon that journey?
Well, I might have to echo some of my fellow panelists. My initial spark was my husband. Sensing a
See,
bit.
my husband doesn't give a damn about climate change, so
I'm sure he does.
But I think that's part of it, of having somebody in your own personal life, you know, whether it's your partner, your friend, your neighbor, somebody at the coffee shop who strikes up the right conversation at the right time. And that's exactly what happened to me. Is my husband started his own climate journey back 2019, and he comes from more of a tech background. I myself, curation, arts, programming. And so I started to say, hey, I too maybe have some skills and some lived experience that I can add to the climate conversation. Beforehand, I thought, oh, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a journalist, I don't have anything to add. Boy, was I wrong. We all do. Everyone in this room, everyone in the cinema, everybody at the concert, at the restaurant, have those conversations, and that's exactly the kind of narrative shift that we also hope to instill within whatever spaces that we are in.
Thank you. Adam, as a performer, I'm sure you know lots of other performers, it's not uncommon for performers to have causes. What would be your top tips, your guide from how to be someone that actually has an impact and it's not just a sort of a show, to coin a phrase?
Yeah, I mean, it's a unique position to be in as a musician on tour. You can actually walk your talk and it's on display. Hey, this stage is powered by the sun. We're using reusable water bottles on stage, and we allowed the venue to bring in your reusable water bottle, and we're providing free water at concessions. We actually asked concessions to provide a plant-based option at the same price as the meat, and we're encouraging you to use it. We're allowing you to get in and out of the parking lot faster if you're carpooling. We're telling you which ways to get to the venue on public transit. Whatever we can, it's all on display. So it's this wonderful way of inviting people into your own efforts as an artist. You can say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. And of course you don't just say, we're the greenest tour in the world. Like, that's a silly thing to say. But if we're trying to make things better and we'd love you to join us, it actually enhances, I didn't expect this with my own band and fans, but it actually enhanced our relationship to our fans. I was just trying to elevate the conversation because I didn't want to talk about how I made my hair stand up. You know, like that was the email I was getting. I was like, I don't want that.
By the way, how do you make your hair stand up?
We can talk later. So that's, I think that's really it, is that the fact that you can actually walk your talk on this issue is really great, because you're actually coming from a very authentic place, and if you're just simply inviting fans in and giving them an easy way to actually have real impact. At the end of a tour, Reverb puts out a tour impact report, and the artist will put that on social media and hold the mirror up to their fans and the community. Go, look what we accomplished together. We raised X number of dollars. We got rid of this many single-use plastic water bottles. We brought up this many nonprofit groups, and you all signed up for their campaigns. We did this many volunteer hours. So it's this big positive thing. We actually kept a little guest book in the Eco Village just to see what fans were saying, and we let them know, like, we will show the band this. And overwhelmingly, it's fans just thanking the band for giving them an easy way to participate.
That's really good to hear. And Henry, I'm going to give you the final word on this. And one thing we've not touched on is, we all work in, you can call it culture, environment, creativity, whatever. These are all industries. There are jobs, there are livelihoods. There's an economy here. As an employer, do you think embarking on this journey helps you have a more positive relationship with your staff, whether it be your direct staff or your suppliers? How has this impacted you on that side of things?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I have a more positive relationship with myself. It's starting an organization isn't the fastest path to success or the easiest. So you need reasons to get out of bed and work on it and get through the difficult days. And as a founder, as an entrepreneur, to be able to work on something climate adjacent, I think the most important, most exciting problem in the world, in the form of restaurants, which is also fun. I mean, it's a real privilege, and there aren't immediate financial benefits, but there are huge benefits to feeling like you're doing something, anything to work on this. And I think, hopefully the members of the team feel that as well when it's a hard day. And the guests are annoying. It's like, well, at least I'm working in a climate positive company, in addition to everything else. I think spiritually the benefits of working on this stuff are really underrated. So,
well, please give a round of applause to our first panel. Thank you, everyone. I'd now like to invite our second panel to take the stage, where we're going to go in a bit more of a sporty direction.